Assalamu alaikum, and thank you all for being here. I'm Dr. Samir, the CEO of the World Free Zone Organization. This is the first one of our series of webinars, Regional 1, in which we will try to support our members and tell them what we are doing from this global organization and how from this organization, the regional offices and our speaker will support you in these difficult times. I will share with you my screen. Okay, as you have seen in the agenda we have shared, there will be 3 persons speaking with you. Today, I will be making a general introduction about what our organization has done for the last year, for this current situation. My colleague, Dr. Mohan, the Chief Knowledge Officer of our organization, will have a description of the current economic impact worldwide and for the free zones in concrete, and after present some of our recommendation both for the global economy and for the free zones. And I will leave the floor at the end to my colleague Srikant Pradiga, the Managing Director of Phoenix Group, member of the Board of Directors and Director of our regional office in India, to speak from the point of view and the perspective of your region. So let me start my presentation, knowing that starting now you have the possibility to make all the questions you would like to raise. At the end, we will select some of them to be answered. The remaining, I commit that each question to be answered in the due time. So I move to the next slide. So just to introduce what is this organization, we are the Global Free Zone Association. We are a non-profit organization registered in Geneva, headquartered in Dubai, and we have been launched as the unique global multinational association of the free zones. As I said, I'm headquartered in Dubai, but we have 10 regional offices who are there to help you and to support you in whatever are your needs. Today we have members from 125 countries, knowing that we have free zones in more than 150 countries. We contribute to the third of the global trade. We employ 80 million persons and we host 3 million companies. We are also having the support of all the multilateral organizations, which we have an agreement with each one of them. Okay, so this is our organization. But since the first day, and I insist, since 2014, when we launched this organization, our main objective it is to support the free zones, the company within the free zones, and the free zone stakeholders, not only in their day-to-day work, but in making them resilient and ready for any future, let's say, complication. And it is not a matter of words. Look to this. In 2015, in our first global event, we already said we need a global trade order. The World Trade Organization tried to have a global trade order. They failed, and today we have plus 600 multilateral, multi-country and bilateral trade agreement. We have EFTA, we have European Union, we have Mercosur, we have GCC, we have ASEAN. So within this spaghetti balls, there is no clear what are the trade order, and you have seen how we have been suffering this situation in the last days. And we also said, because we contribute to the third of the global trade, there is a clear role and a clear contribution to the free zones to this global trade order. In 2016, we said the main element of this new global trade order are the global value chain. We need to clear them, we need to make them more efficient, and we said this is also a great opportunity for the free zone. So the new borders will not be the country, the newer border can be also the free zones. And since that day, in 2016, we launched an initiative. We call it, what is the free zone of the future? We went to Cartagena de Indias in Colombia to answer this question: how a free zone will look like in 25 years. We defined it, we concreted it. In Dubai in 2018, we said, we know today how a free zone will look like in 25 years, but we don't need such amount of time to achieve it. We need a free zone 10x. We are able to become a free zone of the future in 2, 3 to 5 years. And not only we established how to do it, but even we implemented some indicator and KPIs in order to help all our members, all the free zones, all the stakeholders to reach that level, not in 25 years, in 3 to 5 years. In Barcelona, in our last year event, we said now we are ready. This free zone of the future, we name it Free Zone 4. We know how to do it in 3 to 5 years. We know how to measure it. Let's go and face the current economy. And we were planning in our event in Dubai in 2020, which has been cancelled due to the current situation, but replace it with a virtual one. We said today, the value of a free zone, the free zone of the future, the Free Zone 4 value is not just the economic one and the financial one. There are much more value for the free zone, but there is one condition sine qua non to succeed. We need to link all the stakeholders together. We will never be able to be resilient, to be future ready, if we don't involve and ask all our stakeholders to be engaged and committed with our strategy. So we think that this Free Zone 4 is the best way and the most appropriate way to make this crisis shorten and to succeed and to overtake this crisis in a shortened time. And we know it, and because we have been since 2014 anticipating all the situation. My colleague Mohan will explain more in detail what is a Free Zone 4, but I will give you just a picture. What is a Free Zone 4 and how we think free zones should be today, or in a matter of 2-3 years, and how we will be able to shorten and to sort out the crisis in a very short time. A Free Zone 4, it's because it's one element plus 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. Free zones around the world, in all the part of the world, in the 100 plus 50 countries, has been created with one single objective: business excellence and economic contribution. More than ever, we have to continue working, improving the business environment and the easy doing business of our countries and our free zones, and we have to continue for whatever improving our contribution to the local economy through job creation, improving trade, and attracting investors, even in a different way. This is a condition sine qua non. This is the basic. This is what we should continue doing, whatever is happening. On the top of it, we need to be best in class, innovative, and sustainable. Best in class, a free zone management, a company, even an industry park manager, economic zones, free zone, you name it. We should be knowledgeable. We should learn from what is happening, and we should be able to accumulate this knowledge to share it. You will never be agile in taking appropriate decision if you are not knowledgeable. Safety and security, you see it today, is a condition sine qua non for the successful. We need safety and security for people, for goods, for intellectual property, for money. We launched 2 years ago our Safe Zone program, a successful and flagship program. We adopted the OECD Code of Conduct, and we are ready today to implement it. Take ready. More than ever, this is another key of the sort out the crisis. We need zones to be smart. We need zones to be tech ready. We need to speak online with our client. We need to create the online free zone management. We need to create the online, let's say, company creation, and we need to create a community online. Innovation, we always say that it's important to attract investors. Yes, it's important to attract investors. In the current situation, much more important than attracting an investor, it is to take care of this investor. But equal important, or even much more important than attracting investor, it is to link these investors with local entrepreneurs, to take them and to make them involved with our local economy. 85% of the free zones companies are small and medium enterprises. We will never succeed if we don't take care more than ever on the small and medium enterprises. Sustainability, environment, you know that we have to be committed to contribute and to have green zones and to have protecting the environment, energy efficiency, building efficiency. This is what we understand, and we have a certification, call it a green zone certification. Good place to work, a free zone, a user, a company, a government should take care of the employees. We should have a good place, quality of job and job of quality. Social responsibility, every free zone should have its corporate social responsibility. We should be ready today to have even mask production, you name it, respirator production, helping the people crossing the street. This is what we understand by free zone of 4. Business excellence and economic contribution, this is a condition sine qua non. This is the basic. Best in class, innovation and sustainability. This is what we understand by free zone 4, and this is what we think should be the short way to sort out this crisis. Thank you. These are my first word of introduction. If you have some question, you can share it with me before leaving the floor to our next speaker, Dr. Mohan, who will describe for us what is the current economic situation, impact of the pandemic on the global economy, and the impact of the pandemic on the free zone itself. We have one first question to share with you. Please, and if you don't mind, can you answer this question before moving to our next colleague? So my colleague Sajan will put this first question to be answered by our participant. Are you confident in your business model that it is resilient enough to recover from the impact of this crisis? You have 3 options: less than 6 months, from 6 months to 6 weeks, from 6 weeks to 6 months, and more than 6 months. We will give you just a few seconds to answer to this question. I will leave the floor now to Dr. Mohan to make his presentation, knowing that you have the possibility from now to put your question, which I will select a few of them at the end of this presentation to answer them, repeating my commitment that if we are not able, due to the current time frame, to answer all the questions, we will answer it by written. Okay, thank you so much. I leave the floor to my colleague, Dr. Mohan.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Samir, for that wonderful introduction. Good afternoon to all the webinar participants. Welcome. It gives me a real pleasure to connect with all of you on this platform. A bit unusual for us, but hopefully we will enjoy these sessions too. Dr. Samir gave us a historical perspective. He told us how World Free Zone has evolved over a period of time, how we have grown, made a difference in the world. And my role is to take it from there and talk more about the current situation and the way forward from here. So he gave us the past. I will share with you the present and future. Now, when it comes to present and future, the way forward and the current situation, it's divided into 2 parts. I will be sharing with all of you a few thoughts, some experience from a global perspective. What is the current scenario and how is the way forward? and my esteemed and distinguished speaker, Mr. Badiga, will also talk on current context and the way forward, more from a regional perspective, as Dr. Samir pointed out. Yeah. So let's start with global perspective on current scenario and the way forward. At the end of 2019, most experts in the field were very upbeat. They were predicting an uptick growth in the overall economy, in the world output, in wealth generation, in trading, and so on. But unfortunately, as soon as the new decade opens up, right in January, we are just fresh into the next 10 years, we are struck by this disaster, this pandemic, which has almost become a global health issue. It's led to a major despair and desperation amongst people. So this has led the current situation to have very high level of uncertainty, and it is unprecedented. I guess nowhere in the history of humanity a problem of such magnitude has been faced by people with such huge population. What has happened as a result of it? There has been a major lockdown. Half the planet out of the 7.8 billion people are at home, locked down. There is a total embargo on travels, and all of us now are familiar with the term social distancing. What this depicts is the VUCA conditions, as experts globally say. There is a lot of uncertainty. The situation is quite volatile. It's complex. The solutions are not very simple. And there is a lot of ambiguity, lack of clarity. So what happens next? Where do we go from here? Let's try and understand what kind of impact it is having and what kind of impact it is likely to have in the near future and in the long term. So basically, most economies are in a state of forced inactivity. Yeah. There are three specific data points that I will like to share with you. One, the overall global wealth generation is depleting. Two, the overall world output in terms of both manufacturing and services has either halted in many instances or substantially slowed down in many places. And the third area is the trade, international trade. Export-import has also substantially reduced. And all this has caused a reduction in consumption. Yeah, people are now looking at buying what is the minimum requirement and not going in for big capital investments on luxury goods or other areas of businesses, fancy offices, and so on. It has had an impact on stock markets. It has had an impact on currency, and over a period could even have some adverse impact on employment. Now, what does all this in monetary terms mean? International Monetary Fund recently came up with a research finding that at the end of it all, there is a possibility that the world may lose $9 trillion. What does that mean? This is assuming that the recovery happens in about 3 to 4 months' time. It amounts to, if you do the basic maths, almost the estimated loss is about $100 billion every day. It's mind-boggling. It's an amazing, huge impact on economics, on social life of people, on general humanity. So some of the figures I would like to share with you here. This is a sentiment, economic sentiment, data collected by Kiel Institute of World Economy, our research partners based in Germany, from 33 advanced economies and 9 emerging economies. At the middle of 2019, many of the experts were, as I said, upbeat. They said 2020 is going to be a good year. But as soon as the new decade opened up, we saw a huge dip, and the sentiment has dropped globally and indicating that there could possibly be leading to some kind of recession. This is the global output figure, both manufacturing and services. It was already to some extent sluggish, and the pandemic has only decelerated the entire global output, world output, by substantial margins and means. When it comes to international trade, already in 2019, we were doing not very well. Why? Two of the giant economies, America with $20 trillion economy and China with 13 trillion, the two large giants, had already a face-off, which led to each one increasing the tariff, duty, and impacting the global trade to a very great extent. So in these figures, if you notice, in some instances, the rate of increase is decreasing. If I was to increase 6%, grow 6%, I'm growing only 1 or 2%. But in some instances, there is a negative growth. I was X, I'll be X minus 0.5, 1 or 2%. When it comes to trading, logistics, movement of goods across the globe, there is a likelihood, the experts believe using projection, that there could be a negative growth. A sharp drop in world trade is expected as a consequence of current crisis. Already it was dropping. It is possibly going to reflect a little more. And it also highlights the trade tensions that have been around since last 1 year plus, which is adding fuel to fire, as they say. Yeah. Some outlook, what kind of sentiments expected? Except two economies, China and India, most others in 2020 are likely to see a negative, a dip in the growth. And even in these two, the rate of increase is going to be curtailed. Yeah. This is about the overall economic scenario. Let me come to free zones per se. Now, along with Kiel, the World FZO has undertaken an excellent initiative, and we call it as FWEB, Free Zone World Economic Barometer. Now, FWEB is a survey-based sentiment indicator, which we apply on free zones on a quarterly basis. We take about a few very vital variables important for free zones. A, revenue generation. B, number of companies coming in. C, manpower. D, import-export data. And a very simple questionnaire is administered, which asks them, in the last quarter, yeah, did the revenue go up, remain same, or decreased? Did the number of companies, new businesses, new customers increase, remain same, or decrease, and so on? Yeah. And then the same people are asked, in the next quarter, what do you think? Based on your experience, is it going to increase? Is it going to remain same or decrease? A very simple but extremely effective tool which tells us the exact sentiment of what is happening and what is likely to happen. Now, in the last quarter, in 2019, when we did the survey, we got some encouraging results. We were expecting, or free zones who were responding to us were expecting, that there will be a positive element in 2020. It is likely to become much better than the previous year. But what happened? in Jan, we were struck by the major global problem. So just to know what is the situation, very quickly, in the last week of March, we did one more study. About 75 to 80 free zones responded to this survey. They shared their assessment. Interestingly, 3 specific pandemic-based questions we asked them. The normal survey have other variables, but here we said, is activity in your free zone currently affected by the economic impact of coronavirus? 2, do you expect activity in your free zone to be affected by the virus in the coming months? For both these questions, the alternatives, like you did a poll just now, the alternatives given are not really, to some extent, substantially. These were the 3 options given. I'll show you the results that we got shortly. The third question, which channels will activity in your free zone likely to be affected? Through which channels? Yeah. If you think all of them, you can select all. So you could answer multiple. A, limitations to activity due to measures to contain. B, loss of business due to drop in demand. C, production problems due to supply chain. And 4 is deterioration in the financial environment. These were the 4 options given. Let's see the results that we got. The first one, not very surprising, is activity in your free zone currently affected? Almost 2/3 of them say to some extent, 1/3 of them say substantially. But as we move on, do you expect activity in your free zone to be affected in the coming months? This we asked in March, so April, May, June, possibly the next 3 to 6 months. The percentage in substantial, if you see, has increased. So more and more people have expressed a sentiment that it's going to affect them more. And almost 95% of the people feel it is going to affect them. We can actually see the impact. What are the channels that will affect? Limitations to activity due to measures to contain the virus. I mean, is almost all of them, yeah, 85% of the people. Then you have loss of business due to drop in demand, 66. Production problems due to supply chain, 59. And deceleration in financial, deterioration in financial environment is 54. Now, what does this say? That most of them are anticipating negative effect. It's in a way like a trade-off. If we want to contain the virus, we have to follow work from home, social distancing, not traveling, embargo on, yeah. And if we want the economy to grow, then we need to wait for social distancing and embargo and all. So on one hand, we are able to curtail, but it's definitely going to have a negative impact. And earlier, we saw IMF telling us the loss is huge, can lead up to $100 billion a day. What kind of measures governments have taken? A lot of stimulus packages given. USA has announced a huge package. Accommodative policies where very low interest or zero interest loans. Yeah. From a social perspective, lockdown of cities, there is embargo on travel, social distancing, and some of the major sectors which have got affected, as we saw in the initial slide: aviation, travel, tourism, hospitality, transportation, global value chains, manufacturing, and all this will have a ripple effect on other industries too. Yeah, it's going to have on services, on education, on consultancy, and so on. So a number of measures have been undertaken, and possible recovery routes, successful containment and normalization. You have just answered your thoughts on how long it will take. And Dr. Sameer will respond or give you the results of what all of you have said at the end when he does the summing up. But economists say there could be 4 to 6 weeks. So there is a drop down, but we can control it quickly and we are able to recover. A V-shaped. The U-shaped is there is a drop down and probably we lie at the bottom for some time and then gradually we come up. So this could be not few weeks, but maybe, 3 to 6 months, the second option. Now, the third one, which is a bit scary, is a W-shaped recovery. What are we saying here? We try to contain it and we think we have contained, we recover, and then there is a second wave. We have not adequately contained it, and this time the history shows whenever anything has repeated, has reoccurred, the second wave is always much stronger than the first. China, to some extent, has managed to curtail the second wave and overcome a recurrence of this. These are from the experts. A shared thought that I wanted to share, there can be a square root shaped one. This is just as a logical option. You recover, but later on, people change their lifestyles. Health and happiness is more important than economic generation, prosperity, etc. And therefore, people start leading a more frugal, simpler life. And maybe there could be a plateau and not a very, very ambitious upswing like the way we were moving in globalization. Now, what are the recommendations from our side? We want to communicate one very important thought to all our participants that, yes, it is a problem, it is a challenge, it's a hurdle, but maybe if we innovatively think, there are also opportunities in these situations. It's an opportunity to come up with a lot of good things, systems, procedures, employ the right kind of systems and procedures which will help you to not only recover faster, but also prevent a bigger impact in future of this or any other similar calamity. It's a good opportunity to formulate and implement an enterprise-wide risk management system, unless you have already done it. Strongly advised. In Dr. Sameer's presentation, he talked about the base pillar and 3 pillars of innovation, sustainability, best in class. They all have 3 elements, so totally we have 9 elements. Now, each of these are converted into a certification. Some of them are ready, some of them are in the process of getting ready. Safe Zone certification is one such, which is developed using the World Customs Organization's authorized economic operator principles. The same criteria are used here, and once you are labeled as a safe zone, goods can move freely from yours to others without much difficulty. Green zone, along with Dubai Carbon, the sustainability wing here, we've developed a green zone certification. It looks at how you can do green production, green infrastructure, green transportation, electricity, water consumption, and so on. All these certifications have a common approach. There is a pre-assessment questionnaire which tells you where you stand today. And then we provide inputs to gradually improve. There is a progressive certification process. You go from bronze to silver to gold to platinum. And finally, you will be certified as a green zone, safe zone, tech-ready zone, etc. Also a good opportunity to review business processes and optimize your operations. How to reduce costs, how to run businesses in a simpler way. Yeah, people will definitely start thinking, do I really need fancy offices? If work happens equally efficiently from home, yeah, is it really meaningful to spend exorbitant amounts in luxury? Capability development, a good opportunity. We will also be launching a series of training and capability development workshops online in future. It's a good time to upskill, reskill your retrain employees and workers. Make use of stimulus packages wherever possible. I would also urge the free zones to either independently or more advisable to get together along with the regional associations and represent your case to the regulatory bodies. Yeah? Ask for additional incentives, benefits. When collectively the associations represent, there will definitely be a response from the regulators to get better deal from the stimulus packages for free zones in particular. As Dr. Sameer pointed out, more than 30% of the global trade in a way gets influenced. Irrespective of what the time is, it is always advisable to be ready for the worst case scenario, be prepared, and if something better happens, it's like a bonus. Particularly in South Asia, just few minutes I will take, I'm at the end of my presentation. South Asia seems to be doing well in suppressing the curve so far. Hopefully it continues to do it. And most likely capital, like, sovereign wealth fund countries, rich investors will be looking for less affected countries. And South Asia seems to be an attractive region in future. So I think if you tighten your belt and become more efficient and look at becoming more productive, streamlining and becoming lean, mean operations and provide good quality service, there is a huge scope here for even becoming contract manufacturers. Some of the bases can shift. There could be regional shifts globally. Digital economy will boom, not only in education, entertainment, retail, fitness, yeah, and the list is long. Fancy offices, as I said, and luxury offices, excess employees, all these will get questioned, and we need to see how to become more productive. Lastly, I say in this context, there will be some winners and there will be some losers. But if you want to be a winner as a free zone or anyone associated with free zone ecosystem, I go back to first introductory speech of Dr. Sameer. We have 4.0, and he has very clearly explained to you how we do capability development, safe zone, tech-ready zones, innovation. 75–80%, as he said, of any free zone has a small and medium enterprises. I actually quote a favorite quote of Dr. Sameer. I don't remember whether he mentioned, today's entrepreneur is tomorrow's small and medium enterprise. Tomorrow's small and medium enterprise is day after tomorrow's large company. So if we nurture them, we provide them with incubation center, do hand holding, develop them, in turn, they will grow and contribute to the free zone authorities. And of course, green zone, socially sustainable zones are other important certifications. This will make a free zone robust. It will, on one hand, help a free zone to overcome the problem much faster, and two, in future, if there is a similar or any other problem, you will have enough stamina in you, enough immunity in you using these tools to fight against onslaught of anything in future. So this is a strong recommendation for the way forward, as well as the road to recovery is at any time, any of you need any more information, feel free to get in touch with us. One last point. Recently, last week, we published a World Free Zone Outlook report, just like the World Economic Outlook. Very interesting. It's a wealth of information. Dr. Sameer and I work closely with Kiel Institute of World Economy, and they are experts in economics. We bring in the free zone domain expertise, and we jointly created this. Yeah. With that, I finish. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. Dr. Samir, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohan, for this um, presentation, extremely rich. I will not repeat what you have said. Really, the message is clear, but I would like to highlight at least one element. We have to be, it has to be clear that we were already weakening where we have been hit by this crisis. So we need to think deeply what was wrong and what went worse after this crisis. Thank you also for projecting our Free Zone Outlook report, our commitment with all the participants and the people that registered and joined us, a copy of this report and a copy of all the PowerPoint presentation that we are projecting today will be shared with all of you. I would like also to add another element, as Dr. Mohan mentioned it. This Free Zone Outlook was based on several surveys developed in end of March. So, because unfortunately, I believe that things will get somehow worse, and we cannot have, we have to go deep, and we cannot plan without reaching this worst situation. We will repeat the same exercise, which is the impact of this pandemic situation on the global economy and the impact concretely of this pandemic situation on Free Zone. We'll repeat the same exercise end of May. I think the situation will be clear by that time, and we will share with you also the result. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Mohan. Before giving the floor to my colleague Srikant Badiga to give us the perspective of the region, I would like to share with you a second question. So, the second question, how will COVID-19 impact of your level of revenue? It will be having a decrease of 25%, from 25 to 35%, or higher than that percentage. You have 1 minute to reply to this question, and after I leave the floor to my colleague Srikant, who will be addressing. At the moment we have more than 150 participants in this webinar. A few seconds to allow you to answer. Okay, thank you so much. Srikant, the floor is yours. You have 10 to 12 minutes to present us your point of view on the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samir. Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Very good afternoon to all the participants. Dr. Mohan, in fact, made my job much easier. His perspective on Southeast Asia and the global perspective. That what I could observe from his presentation or in the present scenario, and the slides which I'm going to share with you, the information which I'm going to share with you is something close, but at the same time, I'm just trying to show you our preparedness. When I talk about this COVID, such kind of pandemics, in the past also, this is not the first time it's happening. In the past, when the world has seen the world wars, especially the World War II, there were, especially the Asian countries were devastated. But how they recovered, that is what we are supposed to learn. What we are supposed to learn from that part, history as well, is useful now. I would like to say that during the World War, we were never prepared. We never had this kind of technology and this kind of connectivity, what we are talking about, especially the business bridges between the world businesses was never existed. Even though that particular time, we were talking about emergence of different trade world like GATT and other things, but that did not help. And those particular bodies were only helping to one particular region of the world. Now here, we have this World Free Zones organization as a much better platform where we have almost all the free zones of the world connected as our members. And this particular platform is enabling us to understand each other and make more as a bridges than a barriers. As Marilyn Monroe said, sometimes good things fall apart, so better things can fall together. While taking this as my line of starting my conversation, having said that, in continuation to our preparedness in the present environment, I don't see this particular pandemic as really disturbed our moral. Yes, it has done what it could. It has did. It has disturbed the world economy. It's fine. But how are we deterred? Are we disturbed, perturbed by that? Yes, to an extent, yes, business laws and laws. But at the same time, I would like to take something what Dr. Mohan was trying to tell us and Dr. Samir was trying to tell us. There is some kind of loss in the business as far as your figures are concerned. But I look at it a different way. I don't see this as a loss, but I see this is a positive of business. Post-COVID, I'm sure the entire businesses would bounce back and we're going to come to normalcy. And what are we talking about this fall in businesses and the loss of this revenue would certainly generate and make the world much, much more in a better situation. Now, opportunity for business transfer in this pandemic has given us better opportunities, in fact. It has severely affected lives, yes, no doubt. Countries have resorted to lockdowns, including India and most of the parts of the world, and few countries like US and all not lockdown. They've been seeing livelihood is more, they give importance to livelihood more than life, but India is something else. And this lockdown and human movement restrictions, they'll be affecting global trade across several industries. This is a temporary phase. The present situation has provided an opportunity for global businesses for transformation, making them future-proof. Future-proof in my sense, I would look at it as businesses are resilient, optimizing, they have a chance to adapt, system-based, values-led and life-supporting. This particular period during this COVID has given a sense of oneness among ourselves first to start with. And so also, see, previous to this, until March, we've been witnessing the world was going much, much faster. And we've been witnessing what would be the next century. And that kind of forecasting, of business forecasting, we've been preparing after the next century. And we totally forgot to live in this particular moment. That is what we have been witnessing before this COVID. In fact, this particular situation has been a real good step for learning. And our free zones, as I've been telling, will play a great role in shaping the way businesses will operate and act across nations. We all know how this free zones or units or any businesses, I would look at it in 4 categories. The first category is like they just started, the entrepreneurs, what Dr. Mohan was trying to tell, the entrepreneurs who were in initial stage. So only some nominal investments have been made, and that in the approval stage. Second category of business houses, the mid-launch stage, where substantial investments have been made. Projects are halfway through. And the third category, in the final delivery stage, substantial investments have been made, projects are close to realization. And the fourth stage, which are already established and which are operational. And all the realization has been started. What is the impact? Category 1, I would not say the impact or not, I would say it as impact, not impacted. Here they can see this particular threat as a new opportunities. Now they have, because of COVID, this particular situation, many more business opportunities will be arising. This is the time for the category 1 businesses to either, if their business are potential enough, they can continue, or since they have made very low investment, they can definitely shift into new verticals. The next 2 categories are worrisome. The category 2, where they significantly impacted. The question is how to go ahead. All the investments are locked. Similar with the category 3, realization yet to begin, stimulus packages, relaxations in moratoriums. So all these two categories are the worrisome, and where the governments are supposed to come to the rescues. In most of the nations, talk about Japanese or Korean, and even in the case of US and Europe, the governments, the sovereign is coming forward and allotting huge budgets to recover the business. Similar in India also. In the next slides, it show how India has come into the rescue of the industry. Category 4, not impacted in some countries. It's not impacted. The lockdown has come down, and the business did come to lockdown. But at the same time, government has allowed a lot of essential commodities and different industries which are supposed to continue with their manufacturing that is going on. And in such case also, government has come to the rescue in the form of giving subsidies for their regular maintenance, monthly maintenance, such as power, water, and other infrastructure charges that the government usually charges. Even in this case, the government is helping. So category 4, they will certainly recover the post-COVID. Let's just have a look at the Asian scenario. Just a continuation of where Dr. Mohan was trying to show in different figures in terms of monetary loss and all. Now, the last quarter, Asian Development Bank has revised its growth forecast for the region from 5.5% in September 2019 to 2.2% in March 2020. Worst performance of Asian economy for the past 40 years. Next, your Purchasing Managers Index showed that manufacturing tumbled in Indonesia, Vietnam, and Philippines. China's factory activity improved slightly in the month of March, but growth has been marginal owing to intense pressure businesses are facing with domestic and export demand slump. Activity in South Korea shrunk at its fastest pace in 11 years. Japan's factory activity contracted at its fastest pace in a decade, with the third largest economy globally. Here in this particular context, world over at this particular stage, world will be looking at one of the countries of Asia as an enemy country of the world. We as World Free Zones totally, we don't want to agree on that particular part, and we would like to see the opportunities rising out of it. For example, Japan has given funds to its company who are ready to move out of China and re-establish in other parts of the world. It's a very good sign. It's not that at the same time, having said that, countries like India are still maintaining a good relationship with China. And I'm sure once this pandemic, the curve which Dr. Mohan was telling comes down, I'm sure the entire world will once again work together. The Indian scenario, as we all know, India has been looked up by almost the entire globe is looking at India in a very, very positive way. India is the only country which could minimize this particular pandemic. We did not allow this to spread. Thanks to the measures taken by the central government and the state governments, the entire country came together and worked together. And we very well knew that there's no medicine. And there's only one way where we could really stop this spread is by breaking the chain. That's what we adopted. This lockdown is all about that. And as we've been just trying to project, we minimize the impact of pandemic by imposing a 21-day lockdown effective from March 25th. And now it is extended to May 3rd. And few states have extended beyond that. And the government is also, it is, as I've been trying, lives or livelihood. In such case, government is more bothered about life. The Indian perspective, they feel, no, we can any day, once we recover from this pandemic, we'll certainly bounce back and we can stabilize our economy. That is what is the spirit of the Indians and Indian government, where we're trying to take this forward and fight against this pandemic. Now, increased focus on public health spending. Around $22.5 billion have been allocated and allocated to this particular area. Packages to provide stimulus to the affected. Ports, seaways, and logistics for essential products exempted. What I'm trying to say is here the business has not come to a standstill. Exports are going on, imports are happening, and all the logistics hubs are going on. Logistics are open. The highways, the railways are operating for all the goods carriers. So the connectivity part, the infrastructure part is still on. The country, the economy, some part of it is affected, but not the entire thing. Government is cautiously taking forward the entire thing and leading in a very good way. And as I said, the only challenge what we had some is migration of this migration of labor, which we are trying to contain in few parts where the labor were closer to their villages are moving out of urban areas. But coming back to give you an example, I come from the city of Hyderabad, where Hyderabad presently is considered one of the best infrastructure developing area or cities, much fastest growing city, and largest construction development is happening here. And most of the migrants labor who came from different parts of India are stationed here. All our developers are taking care of them with disinfecting their labor camps, providing them with wages, providing with the food, whatever medicines. So all these things are happening and they're taken care. So here we don't see any kind of threat of even this particular moving out of this particular labor camps. So what I'm trying to say is, once this lockdown is over, I'm sure we will start off and we'll come on to the main tracks. As I said, logistics subs, e-commerce services, IT services, businesses continuing to digital models. So only small thing what I could see here, a culture change, a work from home culture change. It was there earlier also. And this particular scenario of COVID had forced most of the IT companies to work from home. Thanks to the government once again. As you know, IT requires good infrastructure in terms of bandwidth. You can see every house has become a software development company now, as good as that. So the infrastructure in India, especially in parts of the where in the cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, where IT is supposed to be a cash flow earner. So the infrastructure is in a much advanced stage. So our preparedness. So once again, whatever is happening is only a positive. Coming back to the IT, we have not lost any kind of business, and business is continuing. Next, balancing the rolling ball of the economy is always like risking human life. That I've been trying to explain that government is willing to extend the lockdown, but not to call up only for to what we want the people to be saved first, contain this particular COVID, then talk about economy or whatever businesses. As a strong, resilient economy, India is expected to bounce back. Let us look at this changing trade landscape. What the country, what India and the Asian part have been witnessing. Countries are resorting to alternate import sources. Korea and Japanese companies are looking for other investment destinations. Vietnam is emerging as new manufacturing hub in Asia with low labor costs. India, once again, ramping up domestic manufacturing to mobile and telecommunication exports. Exporting its advantage of extremely young population, low labor costs. Focus on fixing, and not only that, India is looking at reshaping its exports policies. India is having a very good, coming up with very good policies to attract more FDI and providing it entire infrastructure, and India is prepared for this kind of investments, any kind of investment, be it automobile, be it pharmaceutical, IT, we are already leading, be it gems and jewelry, manufacturing, automobile, anything. So focus on fixing infrastructure bottlenecks and capitalizing on manufacturing will benefit India as impact can be minimized due to the robust, resilient economy. Countries are now urging for domestic production wherever feasible. This what I'm trying to say is, until March, most of the countries were dependent on only few countries having their manufacturing hubs, and from there they've been doing distributions. And so that, but depending on such kind of business model, this kind of scenario is totally affecting their business, and thereby jeopardizing the entire business model. Possible way outs. Asian economies have already started planning to resume operations. Business should take a cautious approach, and austerity is the new formula. Obviously, we all are onto it. Look for alternative cost competitive sources. Create an emergency corpus fund for unforeseen situations, and out of this great learning. Look for cheaper debt options. Extend import sources from multiple economies. Spread demand across both domestic and export markets. Example like India. And business continuity plans to establish firm procedure, which I already explained, procedure and process post-disaster. In India, especially what we're trying to say about India is we have possibility of, because of the huge consumer base, we can sell in India, and also because of its logistics placement of geographically positions, because of logistics hubs, we can also sell from India. So the export and import business is much favorable to in India. And once again, the same thing what I'm trying to about, the possible way outs, the building robust manufacturing supply chain process, adoption of technology, implementation of best practices, and lessons learned from the pandemic in long term, close tracking and mounting of interlinkages, optimal inventory. All these things, what I'm trying to say is most of the business houses are doing right now, including most of the companies in all the sectors are up to it. And there's only a skeleton, the outlook of what the strategy business are adopting. Having said that, finally, I would like to say mapping innovation in Industry 4.0 through IoT, cloud computing, miniaturization, 3D printing for flexible process, and automatic intelligent manufacturing with sustainable hygienic environment for creating what we are talking about now is free zone sites 4.0. My conclusions, I would like to come up with saying that let's work closely with international free trade associations for uninterrupted and sustainable business growth, which World Free Zone has already been doing, and we established good relationship. I have represented from government, frame conducive policies by having a grassroots understanding, businesses and governments to work hand in hand for better implementation practice through common platforms such as World Free Zones. In the recent past November, World Free Zones had an international conference in India. That was a very fruitful thing. And that this kind of seminars we'll be conducting in other parts of Asia as well. A global free trade agreement can be made possible among participating countries with one act, one say, with no barriers towards trade across borders. With this, I conclude, I would say it's only bridges, but no barriers. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Samir. Thank you, Dr. Mohan. And thank you all the participants for patiently hearing me.
Thank you, Srikant, for your insight. Before starting with the Q&A, I would like to ask you all, please, a third question. Which will be your priority change in the way of working going forward? Invest more in the well-being of your employees, ensure better the safety of your productive assets, implement new communication tools to work remotely. Few seconds to allow you to answer these questions. For the time, we received several questions from the participant, with I thank you for this interest. For the time being, I'm able just from this several questions I'm so sorry to select just 3 for the time being. And I said my commitment with all of you, the one that have published these questions, we will answer them immediately after the end of this webinar. So the time is out for the third question, and I have a first question for Dr. Mohan. This question is coming from my colleague Emeka. Emeka is based in Nigeria. He's the director and the owner of All Free Zone, and he's a member of my board of director. The question is also shared by Sudhakar, and the idea of these two questions, Dr. Mohan, are we speaking about the end of the globalization?
It's an interesting question, MK, appreciated. Yes, I mean, it is definitely going to have an impact on globalization. But I guess there could be a little more focus in future on regionalization. You know, there could be much more trading and bilateral, multilateral relationships and agreements developed within a given region, which I don't think would stop. But overall, looking at the entire globe as one global village probably is gradually getting affected. What happens is most governments have are in a dilemma. There is a conflict between domestic, political, economic compulsions and global obligations through multilaterals. And this is where they need to decide, do I satisfy my political and economic compulsions domestically, or do I try and fulfill the obligations which I have made globally? Every country is going through this. Different countries are taking different decisions. But yes, the overall globalization process has certainly already slowed down, and it is likely to get affected, but it can lead to a little more regionalization approach in the globe. Thank you, Dr. Sam.
Okay, thank you very much. I said we have, there are plenty of these questions. Don't worry, Sudhakar, don't worry, Khalid, Hari, yes, sir, we will answer them in written. But I have another question now to my colleague Srikant, and it is related to what just Mohan is saying, that perhaps one of the immediate consequence of this situation, it is toward more regionalization and more made at home. So do you think India will be suffering now that we are speaking about industrialization in India and made in India? Do you think India will be suffering for a reduction or decrease of demand from outside to be manufactured in India? And how do you think your colleague in the free zones will help and support in this?
Thank you, Dr. Samir. If you remember, in last November, we've been trying to promote this Make in India and special economic zones. Especially when you talk about Make in India, government is trying to give them, all kinds of incentives, trying to project their preparedness, be it logistics, whatever. And while saying that, the last 4-5 years, government has been preparing and everything was on platter to deliver and all. And somehow in the month of January, February, and December, last quarter, we realized the entire world is moving much, much faster, and India is supposed to get on tracks with it, become more competitive, more challenging, need to design their incentive policies globally competitive, and WTO thing also, how it was bothering us. Having said that, this particular paucity of the global thing and the India fighting against this global pandemic, Corona, we don't care. India is in a mood that we don't care about Corona anymore. It is in the declining stage, and is very happy that entire world is taking India as an example. This particular thing has in fact brought some positive sentiment about India, and I'm sure post-COVID, India will be flooded with investment, or that new companies coming in invest for the for manufacturing, whatever. And I see a very positive thing about as far as Indian scenario is concerned.
Okay, thank you very much, Srikant. Your question also, your words are answering also the question from Surav. I have a question from Khalid Hanif if this current situation with encourage entrepreneurship within the South Asian country. I strongly believe, and this is why we launched the Free Zone 4 a few years ago. Free Zone should be the most important pillar and a key player in promoting entrepreneurship. More than ever, if you want an investor to remain in your place, for a long time, not only you have to take care of him, you have to link him with local and young entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is one of the ways to sort out this question. I will have just final words to another question. If now that we are under this current situation, governments will take care about everything and we will lose somehow will be more social, whatever economy. Since the day one, especially this is some words to Khalid Naqi, since the day one we launched this organization, we said, before complaining, before doing whatever, zones should have to do their homework. We have a lot of homework to do, and one of the homework to do, we have to anticipate. We don't wait for the government to say, yes, what do you offer for us? We have to go to the government and ask them, this is what we can do and this is how we can support. So we reached the end of our, let's say, webinar. I will leave the floor to 1 minute for each one of our panelists. I will start with Dr. Mohan. Any concluding remarks, please?
Thank you, Dr. Samir. So it's been a wonderful hour plus of healthy interaction. I see a lot of meaningful questions raised, a lot of chat. Overall, I guess we need to remain optimistic. It's a trying time. All of us should mentally, psychologically stay more positive, and certainly all of us collectively will come out of this. This is not a one country, one region, one person's solution. The humanity has to get together, and we can see it is getting together. And it will eventually collectively fight against this, find a solution, and there are better times ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Srikant, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Thank you, Dr. Samir. I would see the present scenario, especially talking about India. India now, post-COVID, the world will talk about saying India will be a sunrise city. Earlier, the Far East Asian countries were supposed to call sunrise cities, sunrise countries. Now, India will be called as sunrise country of the world. I'm very, very positive about the kind of developments happening in this Asian region, especially SAARC countries. I'm sure all our, most of the policies, the free trade agreement between the South Asian countries, and especially with the other part of the world, New Zealand, Australia, and the Far East also, I'm sure, including Middle East, I'm very, very positive that we are going to come together and work once again to prove that this particular trade community and business community is the main essence which would hold the world together and fight against such kind of pandemic in future also, and also help us. It's a learning impact, and I'm sure this kind of relations will help us in avoiding any such kind of future pandemics. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, all of you. So we reached the end of this webinar. I will greatly appreciate, I really appreciate all your patience, your time with us. I repeat all my commitments that I mentioned several times during this presentation. First one, the Free Zone Outlook mentioned by Dr. Mohan and will be shared with all the participants. The PowerPoint presentation of the three speakers will be also shared with all the participants. We will send you also a small survey to help us to improve such kind of webinars. So this is I think what I committed, the left question, I'm so sorry, I couldn't, we have plenty of them. The left questions will be answered by email by Dr. Mohammed Srikant and myself. And I would like to invite all of you to a very major big event, a very major big webinar. April 30, 25 of the best worldwide experts will answer all your questions, will answer about how this current situation is impacting on incentives, on regulation, on working with your client, on sustainability, on infrastructure, on training and taking care of your employees. All these elements through interview, individual interview and collective interview of more than 25 worldwide best experts will be shared with you on April 30. I will ask my colleague Sajan to share with you a video about this.
Free zones around the world and their many stakeholders can now look forward to a unique online video event produced by the World Free Zones Organization. In April 2020, 5 panel discussions featuring expert global speakers will tackle major issues affecting free zones everywhere. Built around 5 key topics of discussion, these expert panels will be made easily accessible online as streaming video content. Registration to access this content is free. Visit our website to find out more. Welcome to the future of free zones. Online.
So I would like somehow to close this webinars sharing with you what is, in my belief and my thought, the most beautiful feeling on earth, which is gratitude. I want you to share this feeling. I want you to be grateful. I want you to be aware. I want you to be awake. We hope that whatever we shared with you today will be useful for you. Please help us to improve for our next webinar, sharing with us your thoughts wherever you are today: Bangladesh, Wuhan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nigeria, Malaysia, Argentina, few of the countries, the Middle East, GCC, few of the countries that have attended today our webinar. I have only one hope: to see you very soon, safe and healthy. Thank you so much, and stay safe and healthy. Bye.